everyone, welcome to an MS Excellent Edition of ARG Presents. I'm Amigo Aaron, joined by a man who, much like the lead character in this game this week, toured the world to please the Penguin Council. It's the BRENT.
Have you ever noticed that map? If he would have just took the shortcut, it would have been like a 2-inch journey.
I did notice that. I just assumed it was one of those tales where eventually you always end up back home. You know what I'm saying? So, last week, BRENT,
yes,
we spun the wheel and we made the deal, the exciting deal. I can't believe it. We never got to this one before.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This week on the show, we'll be taking a look at the exotic Japanese MSX computer.
Would you call the MSX exotic?
I would.
Okay.
For us, because it's for Japan, but really, it's a system that has lots of users. It's very popular. If you compare this to stuff that we've been looking at, this is like head and shoulders more popular.
Oh,
you know.
You mean over the Dick Smith Super 80?
Well, the Dick Smith Super 80 was pretty popular, but I mean, this is real popular. I mean,
yeah,
Space Back.
This has an audience.
Now,
yeah.
you had surely played some in MSX games before this.
Yes.
Do you remember what you played?
Oh no, just random emulator stuff. You know how it is.
Right, I agree. So, honestly, I was telling Brent before the show, I don't know much about the MSX background, but I've played some of the games on it.
Yeah.
And so when I got to looking at it, it's a convoluted and complicated background with lots of different manufacturers, different versions of the machine. So we're just going to kind of graze over the top of this, and we're mostly going to talk about the games that this series is that came out of the MSX, because there were quite a few. So this is an interesting machine here. It was sort of co-developed by ASCII and Microsoft, and it was manufactured. Now get this list of manufacturers here. This is straight from the wiki. You got National, Sony, Pioneer, Panasonic, Samsung, Sharp, Philips, Canon, Yamaha, Toshiba, Mitsubishi, Sanyo, JVC, Fujitsu, Spectre Video, Gold Star, Hitachi, Kairoshi, Yaksha, Daewoo, and you got, of course, the Dragon MSX and Casio.
10.
Yeah. Now I
ran out of fingers.
Yeah, there was a lot of this saw what like the 3DO did, and it said, well, of course it was before 3DO, but it was like, screw you, we are the man. That everyone manufactured this thing. Of course, it was sort of like a PC. That's like saying I guess the same way of looking at the classic PC here in the States. You had everyone making PCs, so I guess it's sort of like that. Of course, this was a home computer in Japan. This thing, the original MSX came out in '83, Brent.
Ooh.
And these ran pretty much until '93. Now, I've got a little list here of some of the MSX models. You've got your MSX. This is sort of the original model. Again, the manufacturers on this are going to vary.
Sure.
So
like you said,
I wanted to kind of give everybody kind of an idea of what they would have and what not. So this is your original model. Then you've got the second one here. Let me pull that one up, and that's what that one looks like. And of course, with these things, what's changed in it? Well, the difference between the first and second mainly was they changed sound chips. And I noticed as these things went up, of course, you would get more RAM, and often the video would be better.
And blue cursor keys.
Right. And I even saw models of these things that had like a built-in joystick built into the console.
Oh, like a little
a ball.
Oh, like a full thing?
Yeah,
wow.
Man, yeah. Then you've got your, this is like a 2 Plus, basically, from what I was able to ascertain. And then the last full-on model would have been this MSX Turbo R right there. So the Turbo R, Brent.
I like how the cursor keys change every single time.
Well, you got to have that. So let's get into the number of units sold on this thing. You want to take a guess on this one? It may
worldwide,
sold in Japan, but yeah.
I will say 4 million.
Yeah, you're not too far off. It was the MSX family of computers.
Sure.
Sold in excess of 5 million units.
I can believe it.
We do know that.
Yeah, I know it's a very popular machine.
I had a heck of a time trying to find out original prices on this thing. I really couldn't. I didn't see anything that I would go with. So I guess the prices probably varied quite a bit too.
Yeah, I would imagine they're all over the map considering there were so many manufacturers.
Now, the MSX had a Zilog Z80, Hitachi HD 64180 R800 CPU. We see that Zilog Z80 pop up in a lot of stuff,
absolutely.
Don't we? And the operating system of this thing was MSX DOS, and MSX Basic was also on there as well. So you've got Microsoft working hand in glove on this thing.
Sure. Well, they sold it to everybody. They didn't care.
Yeah. And so this thing came out, and of course it was a real popular, machine, not just for gaming, of course, but for home use. It also they did some stuff with it with MIDI, as like a digital music tool, that sort of thing. So it had multiple uses. Now, all that aside, it had a lot of cool game action. And I wanted to get into some of these. So this thing spawned a lot of different game series. Now get this, I would have never have guessed this. So you had a lot of the big manufacturers working on this thing back in the day. So you got your Castlevania one here. You got your Contra, your Dragon Quest, your Dragon Slayer, Final Fantasy, Gradius, R-Type, Wizardry, Yak, or Zack, however you pronounce it, Xevious, and that weird art role-playing series that I always see everyone talking about. I never played. Just that says Y. Y-S. It's Yeez.
Yeez. Yeah.
So there's a pronunciation of it's not Y's.
No.
It's not wise to pronounce it wise.
That's a very popular series.
I know. Have you ever played?
Yes, I have.
You have played some?
Oh,
of
yeah.
That surprises me. Now there were some franchises that were actually established on this thing. So get this, including the Antarctic Adventure series. Hey, sound like something you've heard of. The Aleste and Zanuck series, which I've heard of Aleste. I guess it's a shooters. Bomberman debuted on here. Eggerland, Metal Gear. I knew that one. I'd heard about that one too. Parodius, Puyo.
Yep.
Right. So those were games that were on here. Now I went through the library of this thing and just kind of messed around a little bit. And the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of good little arcade ports on here.
Absolutely.
That are perfectly serviceable. I would not say these were the definitive versions of these games, but where would you place in an American terms? Let's say you're not familiar at all with the MSX.
Okay.
Where would you place this graphically and sound-wise into an area that Americans could sort of make a comparison?
NES.
You think so?
Yeah.
I would say
the color palette isn't as robust, but that's where I would put it.
How do you think it fares?
I think the games you can produce on this are more than passable. They're good games. Yeah. I got no problem with it. I think the controls are fine. I think most of the games that I played were smooth.
Now you don't necessarily think this is better than the NES. It's just different.
I think this is comparable to the NES. Now I'm not saying that the games are comparable, because I think the NES had far superior games and far worse games than the system, because they had just such a huge library. But I think if you got this instead of a NES, I think you'd be okay.
Well, I believe this thing when did the NES came out? It wasn't out in '83, surely, when this thing came out.
Yeah.
When did it come?
Pretty sure. I'm going to check
I can't
that real
remember off
quick.
the top of my head when the NES came out. I will say that these games came on cartridge, and mostly cartridge and tape. So that did give you a little more flexibility than say the NES would have given you in terms of the ability to do things from tape. You've got a larger percentage of games that you can probably have more memory to work with.
July '83.
So it was literally almost exactly the same time this came out, because I believe this debuted. Yeah, this came out, believe it or not, in June of '83. That was quite a summer.
Yeah.
If you think about it, what's coming out. It's funny. I read a lot about revivals of the MSX, several of them. So this computer continues to be popular. And it's funny. I looked on eBay to see what these were going for, and of course, again, you're talking about there's so many different varieties that I would be scared to buy one just from making sure that I got one that I knew was going to be able to do something, But they were not what I would call super expensive. If you've got a couple $200, $300, you can get in. You can get in on the ground floor and get you one of these things. Now,
that's super impressive.
What do you mean?
I think that's an impressive price.
Well, I mean, I guess because there were so many made,
Yeah.
And I even found some, like, not locally, but in America, people were selling them. So clearly a market. I saw a guy who was developing games for these things at when I went up to the gaming convention there in Columbus, and I actually got to touch and play around with an MSX. Yeah, it was pretty. It just looks like a computer of the time. They're pretty decent looking computer. This one was, but again, there's so many.
Right.
So
now, of course, when this came out, it would have been far more expensive than an S.
Presumably, again, I didn't get a price on these. I'm not 100% sure. They did come with you could get up to 512K, I believe, in the initial MSX, so not too bad. That's a pretty good amount.
Yeah.
So out of this batch of games, and like I said, there were plenty to choose from.
Absolutely.
We had to pick a couple games. Now, I don't know how Brent picked it. Normally I will pick games based on the coolness of their name.
Right.
Well, this time I broke my own rule because this game has a pretty generic name. But when I saw the gameplay on it, I was like, man, I got to get me some of that looks like my kind of game, because you know what I like. And so this week I will be leading the dance, and I picked the Magical Tree.
Magical Tree.
Tree. Now, I had never heard of this game or played this game. I will say that I've no preconceived notions of the game. So, but listen, the lineage of this, it's gold. Developed and published by Konami. So it's gold money. Now, this actually got a release on the MSX, and apparently at some point it got some sort of PC release. It also got released...
Really?
After the fact on the Wii U. I guess, one of those like gimmicks. And
yeah.
Also, it was a part of a PlayStation 2 collection. And
it's a Konami title. They will re-release their stuff till the days are done.
Hey, I don't blame them, frankly. And then you also had... Now get this, Brenny. Someone ported this over to the ColecoVision, a homebrew, and it looks pretty good. I had a look at it. It looked pretty good. Yeah.
I would think the controls would be horrible.
Well, why?
Because Coleco controls are horrible.
Well, that's not their fault. So let's talk about the Magical Tree. This game debuted in Japan, 1984. Presumably it came out shortly thereafter. Well, actually, from what I'm reading here, the PC version, which I'm guessing was probably part of a collection as well, 2015. So I'm saying that you're probably right there. Came out as as part of a collection. So this is a platformer, and there's not a whole lot to say about this thing in terms of what you get. This game pretty much plays all of its cards around the table right away. You play an Indian brave, complete with feather and vest.
As in Native American, not from India.
That's right. He's a brave, Indian brave, and he's got like the buckskin trousers. He's ready to go, and he comes up and he's got a headband with the feather. He comes up and he approaches a giant tree, presumably the magical tree.
I would say so. Otherwise, I don't know when you're going to run into it.
So the tree is, and really, it's the magical tree is you'll be jumping on the magical tree, and plus some trees that are off to the side. That have limbs that kind of come into the picture occasionally.
All right, yeah.
So you're getting a lot of magic for bang for your buck. So yeah, really, the beginning of this game doesn't really tell you anything in terms of what the heck he's climbing this tree for. Just cause, I guess. But you find out later. So this game is very simple. You get a jump button and joystick. That's all there is to it.
Yep.
But hidden within that is some pretty, I would say, some complex control that sort of predate a lot of what I've seen before. The Indian Brave basically he's jumping from tree to tree, and you've got to go up to the top of the tree is the goal. It's 2,004 meters tall.
Yes.
This tree. And
it's a big tree.
There's a gauge on the side that will tell you how far you've gone. Now, this game, I have to say, the gauge comes into play a lot because you'll see it rise and fall quite a bit depending on your performance. So your brave has to run up this tree. Now, going up the tree, you're jumping from limb to limb, and you are also occasionally you'll see ladders, you'll see vines, and occasionally you'll see vines with basically a worm. Or a willy worm. At first I always thought it looked like a beehive, but it's got eyes.
Right.
So it's something like a worm, and it climbs up and down this vine. You have to kind of not touch it. If you touch it, you fall off the tree, or actually you lose a man. So the fun gimmick about this game is if you fall off the tree, and that can happen quite easily because there are plenty of places where it's a free fall.
Yeah.
occasionally your guy can catch on and break the fall and not go that
Sure,
far.
yeah.
But often you fall all the way down to the bottom.
Anytime
Depending
you get
on the level you're on,
Yeah.
you'll fall to the bottom of that level.
But yeah, there are checkpoints as you go up.
Yeah.
About every 50 meters.
Oh no,
Or so.
I'd say they're long. You have to go further than 50, but yeah, it's more like 500 meters. I'd say.
No, it's not 500
Okay,
meters. It's
100 meters, something like that. But anyway, yeah, there's checkpoints.
And if you hit an enemy, you fall all the way down to that checkpoint.
Yeah,
and
that's brutal.
It sucks.
Well,
yeah.
So as you go up the tree, you have, of course, aside from the worms or whatever we're going to decide those are on the vines, you've also got owls that come out. That can hurt you.
Yeah.
You've also got fruit that you can pick up along the way, and amongst other things. There's all kinds of crazy stuff you can pick up, but
apples are your dominant weapon in this game.
Yeah.
You use those to kind of knock off the tree into your enemies.
Yeah.
It's not like you pick them up and throw them. You just knock them and they roll.
Yeah, it's sort of. I'm trying to think of because really it's hard to even control what they're going to do.
Well, you can control which way they go depending on which way you hit them.
Approach them. Yeah, but I mean. I'm trying to think of a game that's got a mechanic quite like that. It's unusual. It's more like, it's weird to have one that goes side to side like that.
Yeah.
So the game is split up into levels, like Brent said, and it's funny because when your guy will get to the top of a level, he'll stop. He does a little jig, a little song. Will play. This game's got cute little music, like you would expect from an arcade game. I mean, this could have crawled out of any arcade, couldn't it, Brent?
Absolutely.
I mean, Konami, if they could have released this right into an arcade, it would have fit in perfectly. Even graphically, it just looks like a game of its era. I mean, the graphics I thought were pretty good. What did you think? I thought this is 84.
The graphics are fine. The graphics are fine. My problem isn't with the graphics.
When you get to the top of some areas, when you get to the end of a level, basically there's like a giant curtain or doors that come up and they sort of they close and open for the next level. I like that. This is a game you definitely want to split into different levels because otherwise to fall like 700, 800 meters, I would want to kill myself.
Well, and they're not levels; they're checkpoints because it's all one magical
they keep
tree.
You from falling all the way down. So I'm guessing you never got to the end of this, did you?
Are you kidding? How far did you get? Do you know?
I got. Let me see. I know I got several levels up.
How many meters?
I don't remember how many. Like 1,100.
You did not get to 1,100 meters.
Yeah,
No,
I
you
did.
didn't.
I did. I got to 1,100.
He didn't get to 1,100 meters, guys.
I did. But I didn't think this game was like super hard.
You thought the checkpoints were over every 500.
Yeah, but I looked at the height. The height meter tells you. I remember I got to. I know it was 1,100 or 1,200 meters. I know that's all I got. Something else we should mention is that
you're gonna have to prove that to me.
Hey, listen, I'm all man.
Because I know exactly how far I got, and it was 600 meters.
The one thing else we should mention is that the Brave, aside from the fact that he jumps onto limbs and vines, he can also basically do like a chin up and shimmy across platforms underneath.
Yeah, that's the best way to knock down apples.
It's also the great way to avoid stuff that's in your way.
Yeah.
Because some levels will have stuff on them, and you've just got to basically, you don't want to be near them. We should mention there's also snakes that come out and try to get you. There are clouds that shoot lightning, But I mean, I wouldn't say that there's a huge variety of enemies. It's just basically the levels get more complicated.
There really is a huge variety.
And you have to clear the thing. It's funny. If you're watching the video, that they just cleared the game. And at the end of this game, which I watched this video, it was sort of disappointing. When you get to the very top of the tree, not to ruin it, spoiler alert, there's a castle at the top of this tree.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that's how this is worse than going home to Mud Mountain to get up this thing. But at the top of the castle, there's some people up on the castle. There's
a brick castle, I might add.
There's a man up there. There's a woman, and they basically you get to the top of the tree, and then the day just starts over.
Yeah,
that's it.
They just kind of congratulate, good job,
and you just keep on rolling. Time to start the bottom of the tree.
At first I thought this was like this Brave's adventure to prove himself, to earn keep with the tribe, something like that. No, this is just like his daily commute home.
Yeah, I know. That's what's funny about it. This game made me happy. It's bright. It's colorful. The Indian Brave's got a happy look on his face. He dances. It's got bright, happy music. It's a fun romp up. I mean, it's a simple game, but it looks nice. I really enjoyed this, actually. I was very pleased. I saw a preview of this before I picked it, so I knew it was my kind of game. I like games where you jump a lot and shimmy up stuff. I think that's fun. Let's call this the poor man's 8-bit Prince of Persia. You know, where there's a lot of jumping and I mean, I'm just saying that there's a lot of shimmying and jumping. That's and crawling along the bottom of ledges. You know, come on, don't look at me like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has nothing in common with Prince of Persia.
You can see where I'm coming from here, though.
Okay, are you ready for my diatribe?
Are you going to kill this game?
No, I'm not going to kill this game. However, I'm going to go in depth on a few things that you failed to mention.
Well, I'm not done, but go ahead.
No, please finish.
No, go ahead. Let's hear it.
The jumping in this game is a fixed distance.
That's true.
It's fixed distance jumping, which is not bad. There are plenty of things that are great with fixed distance jumping. However, the whole game you are going vertical. Yeah. And this man's horizontal jump is tremendous. Yeah. It covers about 1/8 of the screen per leap.
Yeah, he's a good leaper.
Okay? Unfortunately, the platforms are never that far away. And since you're traveling up, most of the game when you're jumping is to go up the level. You're not jumping from left to right. You're jumping and going up.
Yeah, he'll jump right up there, yeah.
So all your jumps are, you don't really see the whole length of your jump because usually you're just jumping up to the next level, and then when you hit that next platform up, you stop. The exception to this rule is when you're attempting to jump from a platform to a vine.
That's the hardest jump.
And that jump is really not well executed in this game. It's not. You have to to catch a vine, there are points in your jump, either right before your arc or right after your arc, where you will not grab the vine. And that is so frustrating.
Let me ask you, how did you play this game? Did you
keyboard?
I played it with the keyboard as well. Yeah. I didn't have that much trouble. Now, when you've got one of the willy worms on the vine that you're trying to avoid. Yes, that is not an easy maneuver.
No. My problem wasn't the willy worms, and that was an aspect of the game I enjoyed because willy worms will actually, some of them will climb back up the vine at the same speed that you climb up the vine. Yeah, so it's a fun little chase mechanic.
They come right after you.
However, there are other worms that are faster than you. So that when you jump on their vine, if you don't jump off in time, if you're just trying to climb to the next platform, they will catch you. That's a neat and fun element to the game because it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
Every time you jump on a vine, you have to figure out, is this a fast one that's going to catch me, or can I climb all the way up with no problem? But grabbing onto the vine is a pain a lot of the time. And I tested this over and over and over because I wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything I was doing with holding the keys down improperly. There are just aspects of your jump that if you are too close or the vine is too far away, you will not grab the vine. And that really hurt this game for me.
It's funny you should mention that because one of the things I had to come to grips with in this game, and I think part of it was from playing Outhouse last week on the keyboard. This game, literally, effectively, you're up. When you're jumping up, doesn't do anything. You're jumping, and you hit the button, you'll go from left to right.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no diagonal jump. I mean, he jumps.
Right.
And I kept wanting to try to hit the keyboard mentally. I was like, okay, I got to hit the diagonal. It's got to go. He does have a great jump. And one of the things you have to learn early on in this game is that the jump is good, and you can jump further than you probably think you can.
Absolutely.
You know, like early on, I was trying to jump to every ledge. Well, really, you don't have to do that. You can skip a ton of those.
Absolutely.
And once you learn, and also when he can jump up and sort of grab stuff, it gives you a lot more movement ability. The vines are the most difficult aspect of the climb. There are no doubt. I mean, whether you can catch one, I don't remember. I didn't really have any. I didn't think there were any unfair. I mean, I thought the hardest thing for me was just not hitting that willy worm.
Now,
you know, that willy worm makes the vinage a lot tougher. And, you know, sometimes he'll bring that vine with him, and so you have to. I mean, it's a real timing issue, and if your timing's not good, it's a real problem.
I get it, and I'm okay with all of that.
Yeah.
I just had problems. Like I said, it's at the peak. the peak of your jump, a little before and a little after, I could never grab a hold of the vines. And it could have very well been the emulator I was playing on. I'm not going to... So if that's incorrect, I will accept that. The second thing I didn't like about this game was your only attack is dropping apples.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because it's not that type of game. It's basically a how quick you can get to the top. Or if you want to play it for high score, you can drop the apples and kill the enemies. And the enemies turn into gems for some reason.
Yeah. Pick them up.
Yeah. Native Americans love those diamonds. I don't know.
Hey, who doesn't?
So, the apples, you knock them, they roll. I'm okay with that. But the collectibles in this game make no sense.
They're weapons.
You're picking up crowns, you're picking up swords, and you're picking up arrows.
Yep.
And you don't use these items, they're just points, which didn't make sense to me.
Well, a lot of games of this era had just collectibles for points. There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't mind.
Look at the crap Pac-Man eats and Miss Pac-Man
But
eats.
I don't mind that. It's just, don't make me think I'm getting a weapon if I'm not getting a weapon.
One thing that I thought made this game odd, I mean, this is like, when you play Mr. Do, you've got the magic ball, and it sort of kind of does what you want, but sometimes it just does whatever it wants.
Sure.
This is like the next step down. These apples, they literally, it's hard. I could not get into a frame of reference as to how these things were going to, what they were going to do.
Now, see, I didn't have any problems with controlling the apples.
Yeah,
I could get them to go where I wanted every time. And it was neat because you could actually, all the enemies, well, not all the enemies, some of the enemies spawn from the tree.
Yeah, they come out in these little holes.
The hole will blink blue right before they come out.
You see the eyeballs in it.
Yeah, so you don't get screwed, which I appreciate. And you can actually knock the apple into the hole prior to the enemy coming out and still score a kill.
Yeah.
I thought that was really neat. And the gems would just kind of poof out to the side. There were aspects of this game I really enjoy, and there were aspects of it that I didn't enjoy. But in the end, the game was just really repetitive.
I will say, like I said, it plays all of its cards early on. But, if you're like, here's my thing on it. If you like a situation where there's a lot of jumping, and I mean, this is this is a platformer in its purest form. I mean, this is it. Platforms, all platforms, nothing but platforms. So if you're in the jumping and platforms in a very simple game that's going to give you your fill of jumping and leaping, I think this is the game for you. Am I going to say this reinvented the wheel for me? No. But I thought it was a fun, simple game. It was easy to get into and sit down and play it. And it's one of those games you can definitely come back and play, for 20 minutes or whatever and feel like you had a fun time.
For me, I certainly wouldn't buy a system for this. I wouldn't even emulate a system for this. If I had an emulator already running and this was on it, I would play it. But outside of that, I didn't think it was special enough or brought anything innovative to the table to really draw me in. And once I got there, I grew tired of the game after about 15 minutes of play.
Fair enough. Not your cup of tea.
Not that it's a bad game. I'm just saying that it's a little too repetitive for me.
So our good buddy Graham W. Vebke chimed in with a review on this one. He writes, "This is an interesting vertical platform game where your aim is to reach as high up a magical tree as you can. You will come across various enemies trying to make you fall down, such as owls and thunderclouds, and at times you will need to pick a path to climb, and sometimes you need to switch sides or even double back." That's true. The game controls well, and the sound is like arcade games of that era, with a happy theme song and typical arcade jump, climb, and collect noises and a falling failure sound. Overall, an interesting game, which provides a different take to the Crazy Climber game style, and I enjoyed this. My daughters, aged 11 and 6, both loved this game and enjoyed the challenges it provided them. And even though this was a harder to play game than Penguin Adventure, both have asked me if they can play this game again another day. 8 out of 10.
And I think that's exactly who this game was geared towards. Younger children. And I think for them, this is an absolutely perfect game. There's no quick reflexes needed. It's more of a thought out, plan your move before you go kind of game.
Yep.
So
I'm not sure I'd go 8 out of 10 on this, but I did enjoy it at an above average. It's fun, and it is like I said for kids. The problem is it's probably kind of hard for most kids to play. But yeah,
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the game is difficult, but I think a kid this is something a kid would pick up on.
I had a look to see if I could find any sort of review. Actually, I did find some people that had reviewed this on GameSpot. The user reviews, they had it ranked around a 6.2. I think that's probably
I think that's
in the
about
ballpark. You could get these on eBay. It's gonna run you a few bucks though.
Really?
Yeah, the cartridges are going from between 60 and 110. Somewhere in that ballpark.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an old, and I think this game has sort of a cult following, if you know what I mean. So
Sure.
I enjoyed it. A fun game. Now, Brent, you went in a different direction here, but it's still pretty cute, isn't it?
Well, I actually, when I picked my game, I did not know the history. I did not know that it was a sequel. I didn't know anything about it. I just picked it because I like penguins.
There you go.
And I picked Penguin Adventure. Ooh, where to start on this game?
One of those,
History abounds. Aaron, do you know a little man by the name of Hideo Kojima?
Yeah.
Kojima?
I like to listen to you try to pronounce his name. Hideo Kojima. Yeah.
You know? Do you know his accomplishments throughout the video game world?
He's a big deal. I believe
he is a big deal.
He did the Metal Gear. Is that
He
him?
did.
Yeah.
You know where he started his adventure? Right here at Penguin Adventure.
Oh,
this was his first game that he ever... Now, he was a co-developer on this.
And you didn't know that when you picked it?
I did not know this.
That's crazy.
Kojima, of course, went on to bring stealth elements to video games. He is given that credit by many. He has made the Metal Gear series, Metal Gear Solid series, and he has also just released a game within the past month called Death Stranding. And a lot of people
I've heard a lot about this game.
Yeah, and love it or hate it, he is a very accomplished and well-respected man. He has a ton of aspects of his game that goes outside of normal gameplay. For example, having to look at manuals or physically reset your system to get past different parts of games.
Did he have a game? Was he the one that had it where it would read your memory card?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And so
I remember hearing about that. I'm like, man, that's crazy.
right. And so that tells you about the man. He really likes taking aspects of gaming and take it past just hitting buttons on the controller.
I will say this: you mentioned that he considered the inventor of stealth in games. I'm not buying that because unless Metal Gear predates. Like one of the games we covered here, Castle Wolfenstein, which had stealth elements. That was a long time ago.
I think you're missing what I'm saying here.
He's a big deal.
Oh no! When he brought stealth to the Metal Gear games, it was stealth in a way that had never been done before.
Okay, I'll buy that.
So this was his, like I said, this was his first outing. This was his first game that he was ever. Before this, he had tried a couple games on his own that never made it to market. And Kojima has a storied history that I'm just going to touch on just very briefly. His dad died when he was 13 at a young age. And it really altered his life path. He always wanted to get into films and do art and that kind of stuff. And when his father died, he was kind of pushed down a different path for a very long time where he had to provide for his family. That was his expectation, was to start bringing in money for the family. And through all this, he kind of went to economics, and then that didn't really work out, and he kind of turned the corner and got back into gaming because he had always done movies and stuff during his life because he wanted to tell stories. That was his whole thing. Wrote stories for magazines that never got published. So he had a ton of failures before he ever had any success. And that really shaped his life. So when he came to Penguin Adventure, he was beat down. He did not want to work with the MSX. He wanted to work with the NES. But he stuck with it and took Penguin Adventure. The game before this, Antarctic Adventure, was just what you see on the surface of Penguin Adventure, which is just a running game from point A to point B. Penguin Adventure, and I don't know if you even saw any of this, because I definitely didn't on my first playthrough, but it has elements of RPG, it has item collection, it has mini games, it has all these different aspects that on the surface you never see. Because even getting to a store, which is where all the RPG elements of this start, is almost kind of hidden.
It's like a smaller hole.
Yeah, the holes in this game, as you're running down the levels, some holes are half the size of the trap holes, and those are stores. And when you go in there, you can gamble through a slot machine, and you gamble with fish. Fish is the currency, and you pick up fish on your adventure. And those items are actually needed to complete parts of the game. And past all that, there are levels, or there are secret items that you have to put certain inputs on your controller for them to even show up.
Wow.
For an example,
I had no idea about that.
yeah, some of the hidden items, you have to pause the game and press up, right, down, left, and then an item will appear. And you can get an item that way. You fall into a hole into a certain level and hit left, right, left on your controller, and you will get an item. So there are all these crazy secrets that are completely outside of the surface of this gameplay.
It seems pointless to do that, though. Why would you add all that extra work on yourself with something that literally no one's going to see?
Well, no. That is what makes Penguin Adventure special. So now let's actually talk about the core play of Penguin Adventure.
Yeah, because that has nothing to do with the actual game.
You are a penguin, and you have to take your magic apple, golden apple, to the princess to save her.
Apples were a big deal back then.
They really were.
They've really lost steam. They were the predominant video game fruit of the day.
And of course, your penguin's name is Penta.
Just like Pentagon Jr. You don't watch Lucha Libre.
Yeah. So you, on the surface, this is a running game. You are running down a path, avoiding obstacles like holes, and there's certain enemies that you have to avoid to run to the end of the path and usually defeat a boss. And the boss battles in this are fairly easy.
I would go with boss battle.
Well, it is. It's one boss battle over and over. And the boss battles are just a huge boss in your path that you have to jump on 4 icicles that are drove into the ice. And when you do it, the ice that the big monsters on will sink, and then you win the level.
I will say, the first time I saw that, I was highly amused. But then you just keep seeing it.
Well,
including in areas where you're not on ice. I was particularly amused, like in the desert. It still works.
So to control your penguin, you press up a few times, and that will get your speed meter going up.
This was a real bizarre game.
And that it locks in. You don't have to keep holding it, thankfully. And then you run at that speed. And if you fall in a hole, that doesn't kill you. You just have to jump, maneuver out of the hole, usually jump a few times, and reset your speed up to full speed. The reason why the holes are a obstacle is you only have so much time to finish the level.
Yeah.
So falling in a hole and then having to redo your speed just takes time. There are also enemies in the game, and it varies from level to level. Usually they're either little black balls or little yellow balls or spinning yellow balls. And if those hit you, it kills you, takes a life away immediately. So you just run to each of the end of these levels, and there's like 24 levels. Yes. It's a very long game, but it's not a very complicated game on the surface.
No, it's in some ways it's similar to Magical Tree.
Yes.
It plays most of its cards, and there's not a whole lot of variance in the gameplay. They just ramp it up.
So just if this game was just that, a penguin running, avoiding obstacles, avoiding falling in holes, this would not be an exciting game. It would be a 6 out of 10 game that you can play and enjoy and everything's fine. But that is just the surface. When you start getting these items, the items allow you to take hits. They allow you to get maps. Sometimes maps are required to complete the stage you're on, so you have to fall in these certain holes to get these items.
Clearly, I never got far enough to where that mattered.
Yeah, well, I didn't either.
Yeah.
And in fact, the first several times I played this, I was like, why is this game so popular? I don't get it. And then I actually walked, because anytime I saw a hole, I jumped over it or avoided it.
Right.
And then I went and did a little bit of research, watched a couple videos, and saw them going to the stores. So I started going to stores, and I started getting these items. And the items are all, they can make you run faster. They can make you take hits better. Like I said, there was a map that's required to beat some of the stages.
Yeah, I didn't even know about the stores until I watched a playthrough just the other night. I was like, man, I'd played this game all week, and so I was just like, I basically got hosed. I didn't get to try that stuff.
Yeah, that made the game so much more fun because now collecting fish had a purpose. Before you just collected fish and it didn't mean anything.
Points.
But now you're using your fish as currency, and like I said, that RPG element starts to come into play. You start to care a lot more about what's going on. You're falling down holes on purpose to see, because once you know that smaller holes has a store in them, you start to be able to see them from farther away.
I don't think you even get those holes in the early couple.
Yes, you do.
Do you? Because I don't remember.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the very first hole you come across is a store.
Really?
So
yeah, because that whole aspect was lost on me. The whole store part.
And you get things that make you run faster, make you jump farther, give you better control of your jump. So now instead of this stiff penguin running down this path, you start to have a lot more control. And that is exactly what you need to make this game fun. I loved this game. I loved everything about it, except I wish that they made those elements a little more visible on the surface. So if you just picked up the game, you would know about them. Because, like I said, before I realized those extra elements, I did not like the game nearly as much. It elevated the game so far, in my opinion, that hiding, well, it's not really hidden, because if you read about it, if you read the stuff, it's there. It's telling you about it. But it elevated the game to a much higher plane. I know you played this and you said you didn't get any of the items. What did you feel about the game?
It's funny because I had a completely different experience than you. And I want to talk more about the actual arcade game than the underlying stuff that 1/8 of people might find out. And I don't know how you'd ever find it out until the internet came around. This game is what I call like a gimmick game where and the gimmick is you're running down a long hall or down across, and it's got an element that gives this game depth, and the speed up element. It's a pretty unusual game for that, when you're not in a car or a vehicle to just have a guy that, you speed up.
Sure, because it's a race game.
And this is the kind of game that sort of lives and dies on the gimmick. How is the depth? How does it work? Well, for a game that came out, it came out in '84.
The release of this game, I believe, was 86.
86. So this is a later release. This game flexes its muscle in terms of graphics. I was real impressed with the effect you get. Like I said, it's really much more like a racing game in terms of the visuals than it is a jump around game. Your penguin's cute. The way he flutters in the air when he tries to jump, and he's got those little wings going, is cute. The aspect of the way things come on the screen,
the scaling,
it all works.
Yep.
Is this the best scaled game of all time? No, but
of course
if you
not.
consider the era of it, and they pull it off, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely,
they pulled that off. So if you don't know anything about the wacky elements that Kojima put in there, you're still going to be able to have a pretty fun time. I mean, I had a pretty fun time, and I didn't know any of that stuff until after I watched the playthrough. I don't think the game's exceptionally hard. I got pretty far into it on my first play. You've just got to understand what what the goal. That's with not reading anything.
Yeah.
You didn't touch on the fact that occasionally power-ups will float in off the screen.
Yep. Hearts.
You'll get things that make you invulnerable. You'll get things that'll make you jump harder. And there's if you get far enough in, you can get a little set of wings that let your penguin fly up into space.
Yeah.
And dodge meteors it reminded me of the opening segment of Blood Money. These meteors are coming up, except you're a spacefaring penguin that's flying around. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I agree.
So I like that. This is a game. It's another game. It's fun. It's lighthearted. It's got a lot of pretty elements to it, a lot of colors, and I like the fact that when you're penguin, when you get to the end of a level, it's like there's like a
shrine.
Yeah, is that what that is? It's
Yeah.
a shrine. And your penguin, what I like, this penguin reminds me of me. He's all winded. He's wiping his brow with a hanky. He's like, and then finally he
thinks.
and the thinking things change. Like we just watched the video here. The Konami symbol pops up in his thing.
I've never
cloud, and
seen
he goes,
that
one. But it's not always that. Sometimes
No.
he thinks of his chick, or and he goes, yeah. And he
Thinks of the apple.
he pumps his arm like, yeah. But I mean,
It rejuvenates him.
he's a great character.
He is.
I mean, they did a good job. I mean, he's the kind of guy. I mean, I play, of course, on the Amigos. We play a lot of these games that have like different sorts of like mascots. Like I would have killed for this guy. This guy's he's a tubby. He's not thin or muscular.
No.
He's this tubby penguin. His little penguin butts. You always see his little hiney. He's rolling along, and then when at the end of the level, he's so tired, and he's like, I need a break.
Yeah.
Jeez. And I don't blame the guy. He runs all over the earth.
He does. He does.
And he never stops running. That's it. The aspects of the game that are real intriguing. It's funny, having the fish there, I did have to say, I thought that was an odd element because it's real out of place. I don't think I like that element. I mean, it's one thing if you're doing it, there's a sequence of this game where you're in water, and there's even a segment where you're underwater.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
I like that. It's not all, they do a decent job of mixing up the levels. There's levels where you're in caves. There's levels when you're in the woods. But the fish, like, why are there things shooting fish in the middle of the woods? Like, that doesn't make any sense. When it happens in water, it makes sense. But now, knowing that the fish are currency, that does make more sense as to why they're there, but it still looks stupid. I would have done that. I would have had it grabbing something else.
Coins would have been fine.
Well, I mean, anything's better than just having random fish. That's goofy. And I will say the fish are placed in a way that when you're because you have to they arc across the screen, and you have to get to the end of the arc. And so it makes you take chances, which I like games like that. So I like that element of it. Another element that's interesting is the fact that when you hit stuff like holes or like stones or fish launchers, it basically stops you. It doesn't kill you, and so you have to speed back up.
Yeah.
Now, there is a timer in this, but to me, I never got far enough to where the timer came into play.
Oh, really? I've actually died by losing enough time.
I never have, but so I don't know how much. But I mean, I guess you don't have to go at full speed if you don't want to. But I always did.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe that could be a strategy of slowing down. Us crazy people, we just crank it up full blast. But I thought they did a lot more. I mean, this has a lot more level variance than Magical Tree does. Of course, it's a much, it's a newer game.
It's a later game.
But I mean, still, you get a lot more. The enemies don't really, they're not a huge deal, but I mean, they're okay. But your penguin gets to go through a lot of different areas. I thought that was fun. I mean, overall, again, I think the gameplay in Magical Tree is more my line of gameplay, but this game is much more original and much more cunningly done.
Yeah.
And the graphics are really good. So I give this one a thumbs up. I enjoyed it. And again, that's without any of the wacky Kojima added on goofiness. I mean, I know people are into that stuff, but to me, that seems idiotic to me to have this stuff. I mean, I know, yes, that's what made the game popular, and without that, but I mean, the game lives or dies to me, and is from the arcade elements of it. Putting in stores and having all this crazy collectible crap, it doesn't even fit this game. This is not an RPG. It's a penguin racing game.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I don't wholeheartedly disagree. But to elevate games, you have to take risks, and I think that was definitely a risk to add those elements in, and I think it paid off in the end. I think that giving you a reason to collect the items, to get the fish, to do that sort of thing, added to the game. To me, it added to the game.
Well, I mean, listen, as far as I'm concerned, to put it in perspective, I never knew that stuff was there, and so not having it didn't affect my enjoyment of the game. So that means as far as I'm concerned, you can tack on all kinds of crazy stuff you want. As long as that, with the exception of the fish launchers, It didn't bother me. So
Now, I have two different elements of this game I want to touch on before we wrap up here.
all right.
The first is this is a bilingual game, which means if you play this on a Japanese system, it will be in Japanese, and if you play it in an English-based system, it'll be in English.
All right.
That's actually very unique. Most games will just have translated. They'll send a different SKU to a different country.
Yeah.
This game didn't do that. They just wanted to have one SKU that they could release, and wasn't done with a whole lot of MXS games, but they did have that capability.
Good move.
Now, here's the stunner. Here's the bit of trivia that I don't know how I feel about this. At the end of the game, you can lose. And when I say lose, I mean you get to the end and the princess still dies.
Horrible.
And the game says you didn't get here in time, you weren't fast enough, try again. Which is crazy, right? So, I mean, it's going to make people replay the game and try to do it faster, and maybe that time element comes in. It's all crap. That's not how you win the game. Can you just take an off-the-wall guess at what you have to do to get the good ending?
I'm assuming it involves all the role-playing stuff.
Nope.
Okay, I don't know then.
Winning or losing this game to get the good ending versus the bad ending is based on how many times you pause the game.
Pause it?
Yes.
How many times can you pause it before she dies?
No. You have to pause at least once. And then multiples of 5. So if you pause it once, or 4 times, or 5 times, or 9 times, multiples of 4, 9 times on up the line, that's the only way to get the good ending.
That's stupid. And I hate that.
I do not like it.
Kojima is one of these mad genius
That's if you take, and I can't.
That is goofy.
I can't be sure that he added that in.
That sounds like one.
But
of his,
I'm guessing that's something he added in. And to see what he did later down the road, some of the awesome things he did with reading your memory card and crap like that. I don't think this was a hit, but if this started him down the path to some of the crazier stuff he did, I'm all for it.
That is weird.
On eBay, let's see if we get any user reviews
We do
first.
have, of course, Graham, our good buddy, sent one in here. So Graham writes, this is part of the same series as Antarctic Adventure, and if you like the other games, you control Pintaro the penguin. And like the other games. The game is basically a time limit course game with some platform tasks along the way, like avoiding holes and pits, avoiding the bouncing balls, and collecting flying fish. There's a weird bonus level if you're lucky enough to find the wings. That's where you go to space. And you fly above the Earth and need to collect fish and avoid asteroids. At the end of by the way, fish in space, and that's also weird. At the end of the third level is the first boss, who looks like a dragon, and that boss is difficult until you figure out the pattern needed. This is another typical arcade game of that time, and I enjoyed my time with it. My daughters tried this game too, and they found the first level too easy and the second level too difficult, so they didn't want to play it anymore. 7 out of 10. I thought the difficulty was okay. I didn't have any problem with the difficulty.
I think it does ramp up a little fast, but when you get the items, it does help that. This can be found on eBay, and as you'd expect, it goes for a varying amount, but it's still decently expensive. $50 is about the average for a loose cart, and then if you're wanting the box included, that's about $150.
You got to pay the big money, is what you're saying. You know what else takes the big money, Brent?
It's not the wheel.
Oh, it is the wheel.
Oh.
Let me go. Oh, wait. Psych. There's no wheel spin this week, is there, Brent? Tell the men and women why. What's coming up, my friend?
We will be back in, 5 short days on Friday for our Thanks for Giving marathon. This is a marathon that we are just doing to give back to the community for all of the nice things that they've donated to us and to charity throughout the year. And we are going to be playing games for a solid 10 consecutive hours. For which there will be plenty of wheel spinnings as we add your suggestions to the wheel and spin them up.
That's right. We're going to spin these suckers up. These are everything on the wheel is stuff that came in from listeners' suggestions. Now we're going to put them all on the wheel, and we're going to spin that sucker, and we're going to play them right here live on Twitch, and of course also recorded for YouTube. Assuming our internet plays ball 10 consecutive live hours straight here from the arcade. Also involved in that day, of course, the boat will be over here for part of the day to join in on the fun. And we're also going to be having a little tour of the arcade and showing off some of Brent's artwork. It'll be real fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Should be a good time.
So we're going to kick off the Thanks for Giving Marathon at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check your local listings for the time in your area.
That's right.
As they say back in the day, because I can't keep track of everybody. We've got people all as far away as Australia and the Netherlands.
That's closest down the street.
Yeah,
so.
and in fact, it's funny. I just got an email from a guy who in Parkersburg who listened to one of our shows and was
awesome.
Yeah, he's an Amiga guy, so kicked him in. I want to thank our good buddy, the Duncan Styles, for our super cool three-dimensional Tron-like backgrounds. Our cool opening.
That was a backwards dunk.
I want to thank our good buddy, the musical genius, Bark Bit, for a closing theme. Always does a good job. We will be going with our Thanksgiving Marathon next week. It's literally going to be taking the place of every show next week.
Yeah.
It'll be, we'll be doing it on Friday, so we'll be doing basically Amigos and R. Sinclair and ARG will all be replaced by the Marathon live. And I think what we'll do on this thing, Brent, is of course we're going to do the live marathon, and then we'll probably post it up in hourly segments or maybe 2-hour chunks on YouTube.
But you're really bad at doing that.
No, I'm great at that. We're not going to do any host segments this time. We're just going to post them up. Hey, I did the last one. It was awesome. It just only took a full year, but we won't take that long this time. It's only 10 hours, not 18 or whatever it was. So we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah,
so we're going to have
should be a good time.
Any parting thoughts? You want to say hi to anybody in the chat? We've had, as usual, our internet's been up and down like a yo-yo today, so we've done the best we could with it. You got some buddies you want to say hi to?
I want to say hi to a few of our lurkers. We got Commander Root. We got Lorix. We got L. Curtis. We got Mohawk Maw. Paul's in chat. Wizard NJ. Boy, if that NJ stands for New Jersey, let us know. And then, of course, some of our chatters. We've got Duncan Styles. We got Geo's Lake, Amiga Live. We had
good crowd today.
Yeah, always.
Despite our issues.
Barkbit and Picard made a quick chat. So,
Sounds good times. Well,
hopefully
you guys will come back and join us on Twitch. Same channel, different day. That's, again, Friday the 8th. So, I think that's it. Let's shut this sucker down. Thanks for joining us. And until Friday, do the penguin dance.
Oh, penguin dance.